Maybe just for the record, we do.
I think for Sunrise, it just came natural to the album because I already had before like quite a lot of songs and more like typical like song arrangements and so I felt like I wanted to more like get a slow entrance to the album since there's also a lot happening in the album, um, and then I just like was diving into the piano and also experimenting a little bit more with sounds, how I can treat the piano. Um, and I just entered that space of more like an ambient vibe, and so that's also quite home for me, doing ambient music, and so it just came naturally in, and I figured out like okay, that's actually the perfect start for the album. I was curious like how it's actually um, gonna be changed if someone takes it as like a full song, because for me it was always the introduction of the album, so it's kind of like the beginning of something, but it never felt like a proper song in a way. It's more like an ambient piece and has a different function, and so I was really curious like how AEVA is like just using this and seeing this as the full potential, and then creating like actually a proper song. I think I was definitely surprised about the drums and this part like where there's quite a lot of energy in there, and because it's kind of the opposite of what it was before. But I love this in remixes in general. So even if I do a remix, I always try to like do something like new and put some new energy in there. And so I loved that part when he brought like drums in there and get like very nice drive in the song. There's a big difference of how you probably you're going to listen to the remixes rather to the album, and that's also the interesting part for me, like that you can now like perceive like Sunrise and perceive this more like as an electronic driven song, and you're more active probably, and you can even start dancing or and either like or having like Sunrise like in the original version, you're probably more like laying in the grass or like laying on the ground in the nature, and that's like very different place actually to listen to the music. And I think that's also the fun part, like creating remixes and letting people have a new perspective on the tracks.
Of course, totally.
I haven't played before.
No worries.
Um, so yeah, basically just two notes where and they're interacting in the beginning. And then, like from this pretty dry and pure part, it slowly opens up on the other part where it goes. So it's like just for me, like it felt like starting very intimate, very like yeah, uh, with two notes playing something together and playing around actually, and then like it opens up always a little bit, but gets closed again and goes back to the two notes, and that's basically how the song started, and then adding the drums later, that was kind of like felt natural to where do I want to go, and that I want to kind of like break out of this like beginning. I mean, I'm a big fan of Frieder since a long time, and I really love his like approach on ambient music, on sounds, and how he treats them. So that's why I fully trust him. Like when he's creating a remix, I was never like I never felt like I want to keep something or I want to make sure this is still there, or it's more I'm also curious. Like I'm very curious like how people uh, use your sounds and use your melodies and use your chords and all of this like elements which you of course had a thought like why you put this like that together. And then I'm just curious like okay, how can you create something new? And I'm just yeah, I think like his sound world I really like, and that's why like I was just like fully trusting him. I think like in general that feeling of like a long journey he created, like I really love this. Uh, that you really get like soaked into his sound world and how he sees like the song and how he created also different mood and emotions, I think like so I just love yeah that world he opened up through his remix. Now I see like two journeys which are happening, like you have the remix, you have the original version, and I really like to dive into both worlds, and I'm just very happy that both worlds now exist in a way.
Speak sometimes inside my soul, precious time.
I think I didn't know that I wanted to have vocals in the beginning, just because like I mean this song like in general took quite a while to finalize, so it was a very tough one, and usually I mean I'm used to like on the album that there are always tracks which they just need time like until you find the right like form and yeah all the parts of the song. And on this one I was really like not sure like where to go like for a long time, and then suddenly like I actually had the idea like okay, like what happens if you put more vocals on it, and maybe that's the missing part. And that's why I was like really amazed and happy when I asked Bianca to if she wanted to write something and create something for it. And then suddenly like for me the whole song like made sense, and I was like oh yeah, now it's actually there. I'm a big fan of Bianca, and so for a long time, and then I was just like I really love how she writes like lyrics. I love how her tone of her voice, and it's a very like yeah she can create like very like intimate like moods through her voice, and I think especially in that song, like since the rest of the instrumental is quite like bright and very like even also sometimes maybe a little bit more harsh, I felt like it's the perfect fit, or it would be very interesting actually to have like a soft and beautiful voice in as the contrast. I'm a longtime friend with Fejká, and so I was really happy that he was up to remix one song. I was very impressed like how he made like a very like solid and nice and warm summer feeling vibe to that song, like where it just goes like from the top to the end, like it just feels like one like beautiful mood and vibe. And I think that's something I was very impressed of, and I love his sounds anyway. Like I'm a really big fan of his music, so that's why like I yeah was of course like impressed by how he created that mood and how he used that sound, and how he also took like the elements of the original song and created like a different form, like a completely different form. And I think that's again like very beautiful to see like how you can completely changed the arrangement and made an electronic track which flows like from the top to the end. I think like on this album I definitely had a different approach on how to write songs and how to put them together, because like usually when I go to a place, and this is my main inspiration, and it feels, it comes natural that the songs kind of like flow into each other, and it's just like gonna stay in one place and one sound world also. But this time I really focused on like just let everything out which I have in my head, and so I wasn't really sure like where it also takes me, the journey, and wasn't also not sure like how I can put this actually back together. And that's why like I think songs are very different from the album. Like they feature very different parts and styles, and so the only thing which I realized in the end like was actually, which combines everything, is that I just let everything flow, everything just like out as it comes to my mind. And so it became kind of like my motive of like, okay, this is what I do for the album. I just want to let it out and see what comes out, and then it started to make sense also to put those tracks together. I definitely see it in a different corner, but more like in comparison to the albums before, I see more that it has now, like it's almost like a turning point, and where I put like everything which I had like before, I put like on one album. So I feature some vocals in there, which I over the years started to do slowly. But of course, like on my first releases, I don't have any vocals. So, and then you have the ambient songs, which are also coming from my first album, for example, and you have some songs with drums, which are coming from the second album, especially. So it kind of like, it's still like in one line, but it, for me, puts everything together and kind of like feels that I can choose now in which corner I want to dive deeper into. So it's also, it felt almost that I kind of like, I had really in my mind, I wanted to do this. Like I wanted to, on Panta Rhei, I wanted to have like vocals, I wanted to have like drums, I wanted to have ambient tracks, and it was really like the urge in a way that I really wanted to do this at least like once, and at least like on this album. And now I feel free, I think, because I feel like I can now just freely choose, like, do I want to focus a little bit more on ambient music in the future, or maybe a little bit more on piano music, or maybe a little bit more on vocal songs. So it's like the palette of the colors of the album are all there, and I've introduced them now, and from there I can just decide like, okay, let's do the next one is like in that style or in that style. But I kind of like, I introduced them already, and that's why like I feel I guess pretty free, because it's nothing like, yeah, which I need to hold back or anything.
Cool. I feel like I have some more follow-up questions, but you pretty much touched on everything. I feel like that's, we can't really finish better than
It's a
that.
beautiful finish.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful finish.
Cool.
100%.